Ancient Egypt and Kush. He's also published, well, you know that I just said that book, but he's published other books since then. And he's well respected. In most, well, some people that I wouldn't expect to know who he was knew him. I said, well, excuse me. Um, oh, yes. I said he's authored many books, and which are currently used in the classrooms around the world, and that's great. Uh, his 4 decades of studying and teaching African history has led him to the conclusion that the ancient Africans were the architects of civilization and developed the rudiments of what is become scientific, religious, and physiological backbone of mankind. Well, we knew that all along. Uh, It is from this framework that IKG has concentrated its research and disseminated its findings. I think he also didn't mention this, but you have a new book coming out that documents 15 years of excavation and restoration and discoveries. Is it out yet? Good. Who has the book? Tom? And I want to know, they can get it from Blue Nile or either Sankofa. Yeah, just want to know where that is from. Howard University, Florida. Don't want to forget our neighborhoods, you know what I mean? Okay, so you know, Tony, you have the stage here.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sister Barbara, for that introduction. And happy birthday. Her birthday was on the 11th. And she already told me she doesn't mind me telling you all how old she is. She's 85.
All right. Yeah.
She should be honored to have
Yes, indeed.
lived that long, still have her mind intact. Thank you. Happy birthday, my sister. So, I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to see you all. I love y'all.
Yeah, we love you, brother.
I was born in Chicago 74 years ago, next month.
Damn.
But the reality is, as I reflect on my life, I was reborn here in D.C.
All right.
D.C. is my life. D.C. is my heart. And as I was sitting in the audience listening to all these incredible sisters come up, sing, and talk, perform, Brother Ken said, after my angel spoke, how you gonna follow that? Well, easy. I'm from the west side of Chicago. And I was born in a household of strong black women. So I ain't scared. I love them about strong black women. They infuse me with life. So I have been energized, sitting in my seat, listening to these powerful sisters. And I'm so appreciative that they saw fit to invite me to give the keynote for their 33rd anniversary. And this is special. It's special because I want to quote from the book of Amos Wilson, or Brother Kaba says, Saint Amos Wilson. Yes, sir. Amos gave a speech. It was one of his last speeches in New York.
How you, beloved?
Speech he gave shortly before he passed. And there was
All
a
right.
statement in that speech that has stayed with me, that has stayed on my heart, in my heart. And it bubbles up from time to time. And that statement is that an act does not end at the end of its occurrence, but continues to move down through the ages, influencing generation after generation 1992 was a pivotal year in Washington, D.C. because acts were set in motion in 1992 that influenced thousands throughout the DMV and hundreds of thousands throughout the country and all around the world. Brother Nati from Baltimore, hey brother, good to see you. Good to see you. And so, what happened in 1992? 1992, a group of sisters, strong black sisters, came together and created a DASA, created an organization, created an institution, which created ripples throughout time and space, and it touched the hearts and souls of hundreds of thousands of people all around the world. And they wisely, in setting up this institution, they wisely chose Dr. John Henry Clark as an elder advisor. In 1992, I wrote that book that I think you were talking about, Now Valley Contributions to Civilization. And I wisely asked John Henry Clark to write the introduction to that book. So when I think about it, I think about the fact that 33 years later, Adasi is still going strong and getting stronger. And Now Valley Contributions is still a perennial bestseller. Why?
All right.
I want to think that these two institutions and organizations, publications were set in motion because of the spirit that was infused in them by the spirit of John Henry Clark. And
All
so
right.
to understand Dr. Clark's spirit, it's important to understand the spirit that was placed in his heart, in his mind, when he was 17 years old. Dr. Clark was 17 years old when he read Arthur Schomburg's essay, The Negro Digs Up His Past, which Schomburg talked about who we were before our world was turned upside down, and what it is we must do in order to uncover the truth that will empower us to do everything that we are supposed to do. So we must dig up our past. We must become the most passionate, most enthusiastic antiquarian of them all. Why? Because we have the longest history of anybody on this planet. Our history's been minimized, it's been forgotten, it's been erased. But when we dig it up, those memories, the restoration of those memories, those ancestral memories, will provide us with the fuel to do what it is that we were born here on earth to do. So Clark was influenced, so influenced by these words of Arthur Schomburg that he jumped on the freight train, left the South, went to Chicago for a minute, made his way to Harlem, and then went to meet Schomburg. And in his youthful arrogance, told Schomburg, I want you to teach me everything you know, right here, right now, at this moment. And Schomburg wisely looked at this young boy, 18-year-old boy, and said, son, read and study your enemy. Read and study who you were before you made contact with your enemy. Read and study how your enemy has moved around the world, disturbing the essence of humanity. And once you understand all of that, then you come back and talk to me. And we can have a conversation about what we should do with that knowledge. Dr. Clark listened, and he was transformed. And as a result of his transformation, he transformed the lives of millions of people around the planet. And that does not end at the end of this occurrence, but continues to move down through the ages, influencing generation after generation after generation. Arthur Schomburg, in that publication, The New Negro, collaborated with other artists, other scholars, painters, dancers, musicians. And that publication, written by Elaine Locke, that publication was the inspiration for the Harlem Renaissance. 100 years ago, the Harlem Renaissance, Harlem, the black capital of the world, the spirit reborn in that community. And that spirit transformed the consciousness of tens of millions of people all around the world for over 100 years. So I want us to really understand what it means when we talk about spirit. I want us to really understand what it means when we talk about ancestors. I was listening to the PFW this morning before I came over here, and of course, they were commemorating Father's Day and asking people to call in and tell their stories about their fathers. And I heard several people call in and reference their father, may you rest in peace. I thought about it and said, no, that's not right. Fathers who are ancestors, those who are ancestors, they should not rest in peace. They should be busy inspiring us. They should be busy working through us. Why? Because we are their representatives on earth. We continue their legacy. So they should be fully employed. They should not be resting. We should not be resting. Why? Because the world needs that spirit. The world needs that power.
Damn, I got to go teach the hood. No more resting in
More
peace.
than ever. I've lived a long time. I've seen a lot of things. I was a kid when them children were.
I have LOIP in the rap, live on in peace. And I said at least through me.
I've seen a lot of things in my life.
Ancestors, thank you.
But I've never seen the bad things.
LOIP,
That we're
live on
to
in
experience
peace.
right now.
At least through me.
So we're going to need some ancestral assistance.
Yes,
We're
sir.
going to need to download
Ashe.
some ancestral memories. We're going to need some ancestral power right now to help us make it through what is coming. When I talk about what is coming, I'm not saying this to make you all afraid or angry. I'm talking about the reality of karma. I'm talking about reciprocity. You can't do evil in the world without evil coming back to visit you. And evil has been done. It is still being done right now. And there's a price that's going to have to be paid for all of that evil. And so what I want us to understand, what I want us to root ourselves in, is to realize that we ain't got to be afraid. What's happening to them is going to happen to them because they deserve it. We don't have to get caught up in that nonsense because we have it within us. The power, the protection, the possibility to transcend all of this and build a new world. That's who we are. That is who we always have been. So it's important for us to center ourselves in who we really are and not focus our attention on the pain that our oppressor has subjected us to. It's important to remember the Bible. Yes. It's important to remember the Bible, but remember this. If the story of African people were a book of 1,000 pages, the Ma'afa begins on page 996, and there's only 2 pages long. So let us focus our attention on the first 995 pages. Let us focus our attention on 8,000 years of African success and excellence. That's memory, ancestral memory, that has empowered us to survive the worst atrocities that human beings on this planet have ever faced. We are still here because our ancestors are still there working through us. And that's something you don't give up. That's something you don't minimize if you truly understand what it is and how it works and how it shows up in your life time after time after time after time.
Thank you, ancestors.
It's important to know that.
Thank you. Thank you, Dad, grandmas on both sides. Thank you.
What will get us through the difficult times that are coming. See, because we're not living just for ourselves. I mean, if you really understand this thing, right? If you really understand this thing, we're not just living for ourselves, we are living for our future selves. It ain't just about this life, it's about all the lives that you have lived that have prepared you for all the lives you're going to live. And then tapping into that Hathaway told us years ago that everything is everything. Everything is happening right now. So what do you want to happen? What do you want to happen? What you want to happen already happened a long time ago. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. All you have to do is to tap into those ancestral memories that you're carrying inside of us. Download those memories into your consciousness and then just tweak it a little bit if necessary to do it better than it ever has been done before. That then establishes the blueprint for all of those who come after you. How to do it. How to improve on what has been done. That's who we are. That's what we have done longer and better than anyone else on this planet. That's what we must remember. That's what we must know. That's what we must act on because that's our superpower. Understand that. That is our superpower. And when we dwell in that which is inherently ours, we draw down to us all the power that we need to do anything that's required. All right? So think about this. I want to put things into context. And I want us to understand what's happening right before our very eyes. Because oftentimes we get distracted by things that are going on. And you all well know that there are a lot of distractions going on all around us. You have to learn how to separate yourself from those distractions because they're designed to dispirit you, to connect you from your essence of who you are and make you afraid. What the Bible did Gregory tell us, fear and God can't occupy the same space. Fear is the absence of God. So know and understand where your strength comes. Harvest that strength by cultivating those memories. And then use those memories to become the vessel through which your ancestors will speak and do their best work. So, y'all know I like the media. I like films. I like good films, right? Because the media is the most powerful form of mental manipulation ever created. It can influence hundreds of millions of people all around the world at the same time in just a few minutes. Because what you see, what you hear, settles within your consciousness, changes your DNA, and reverberates throughout every cell in your body. The powerful form of mental, spiritual, physical, emotional, psychological.
That's why I never like the news.
It's not to be played with. And when we see someone doing it, using these tools and doing them well, we must acknowledge them and understand who they are, and more importantly, understand whose ancestors are working through them. And one of the best examples that I can give us of someone who is embodying, allowing themselves to be used as a tool for ancestors is this young 34-year-old brother by the name of Ryan Coogler. All right? If you all haven't seen Sinners, shame on you. Right? That film is one of the most transformative films I've ever seen in my life. And that juke joint scene will go down in history as one of the most powerful scenes in any motion picture in film history. So I don't want us to sleep on. I don't want us to sleep on that scene. So I want to spend a minute talking about the messages embedded in that scene so that we can tap into that energy, that consciousness that has been put out there in the universe and ultimately amplify that power so that we can do the things that the ancestors worked through this young man to be accomplished. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
So I want you all to use your imagination. Use your imagination and visualize that scene. But Sammy's in the juke joint. He's been invited by Delta Slim to sing that song. And before he sings the song, Delta Slim says, tell him who you are and where you're from. Who your people are, right? And he tells the story and then he says, lied to you. He had to lie to his father because his father had been socialized to believe that this guitar was an instrument of evil, when in fact it was an instrument of transformation. It was an instrument of transformation. So he sang the song, but it's the hook. It's the hook in that song. It's the chorus in that song that is the essence of that whole singing. Where people got sidetracked when they heard it was a film about vampires. They took it literally. And they thought it was a horror film. It ain't a horror film. It's a film about life, the horrors of life. About the vampires who walk in the daylight, who suck out blood, suck out money, suck out energy, drain us of everything that makes us who we are. And then as we saw in the film, those evil spirits cannot just come into your presence. They cannot just come into your presence. They have to be invited in. They have to be invited in. So Samuel, when he's singing, Samuel is an instrument for ancestral downloads, ancestral transformation. He sings the hook of that song and he says, somebody take me in your arms tonight. He's calling on the ancestors to come down and take him in their arms tonight. And that energy, that vibration goes into the heavens and pulls those ancestors down. And then you saw magic, cinematic magic. As an elder griot came out of the crowd playing his instrument, right? And that elder griot was an ancestor of Samuel. So the ability to sing transformative songs and tell stories about your ancestors was inherited in Sammy's DNA. That's who he was. That ancestor was him a long time ago. So he called that ancestor into the present moment and came there into the present moment to infuse himself into the spirit of this young man. And then we saw a guitarist from the future, somebody from Parliament Funkadelic, came up next to him and started playing that guitar. That was Sammy in the future. Oh. So we saw the past, the present, and the future all existing simultaneously. That is the essence of what the spiritual message is all about. There is no death. We are part of a continuum. And once that spirit came down, once his ancestral spirit came down and expressed itself in that space, then that spirit moved all around the juke joint, infusing spirit into every single person there. You saw the breakdancer come in. You saw the MC come in. The camera panned around. You saw a brother playing the djembe drum, calling down more ancestors. You saw three blues musicians playing the guitar. The spirit went into the kitchen where the sisters were. Sisters dancing around the table, sisters twerking, got into the spirit. The spirit got into the Chinese woman, Grace. And Grace started dancing. Yeah. Walked down the hallway to get her man so she could dance with the man. Walked past two brothers who were crip walking. Went and grabbed her husband, and behind her husband was his ancestor, the Monkey King, hovering over him. Grabbed her husband, put out her hand, grabbed her husband, he threw down the car, went to dad with his wife, and then as they walked out of that room, he saw her ancestor, the water sleeve dancer, go out before them. So Sammy's spirit called into that space, a spirit that opened the portal to the ancestor realm so that everybody in that space could draw down their ancestors, so that they could be healed, so that they could be connected to a timeless past and be free.
Wow.
Understand how the ancestors have used this brilliant young man to create opportunities to introduce African people to an aspect of our spiritual technology.
Teach us. Teach us.
It's what it is. Older than time itself. And he's done that through every single one of his films. So this ain't a fluke. This is something that he was born to do. Yes, sir. So what we are witnessing in this young man who's only made 5 films, and he's the most successful black writer and director and producer in film history. He's made over $2.5 billion. Ain't nobody else ever done that before, so don't sleep on this. Be aware of what is happening in real time, so that you can make a conscious choice to align yourself to what is happening right now in times where it is sorely needed. So we can't sleep on this. Sister Ivy, thank you so much for bringing in the memory of Brother I, because that brother has transformed the lives of so many people. And just 2 months ago, we opened the Clark Enhanced History Project on the second floor of the Thurgood Marshall Center, where we created an exhibit to amplify some of the shortcomings in the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And I can say that because I know that it's an incredible edifice. There was the byproduct of African people 102 years ago wanting to create a space where they could honor their ancestors. So it took their selfless dedication to help manifest that building. And now that it's there, that building is more than a building, right? If you understand the architecture, if you understand the symbolism that's embedded in that building, it's more than just the exhibits. My initial shortcoming with the museum was the fact that it begins our story 5 stories underground. It begins our story in an environment which replicates the Ma'at. And as I first went into that museum a month after it opened, stood in that space and just watched how people were being impacted by that physical space. I saw elderly women crying, full of tears. I saw elderly black men angry. And I realized these souls have never been taught about the Bible. So they are having a visceral experience to being exposed to the horrors of the Bible for the first time. That is causing irreparable psychological and spiritual harm. That's not the intent, but that is what's happening. And something needed to be done to kind of undo that, or at least prepare people for that space. So the John Henry Clark Enhanced History Project was conceived in order to create a space where we can tell our people and show our people who we were thousands of years before our world was turned upside down. So that you're centered, so that you're grounded, and when you go into that space, you now have context for what we've gone through and how we've survived. But you also have an understanding that within inside of us is something that will allow us to thrive in the future that we create. We don't have to beg anybody for anything. All we have to do is to know who we are, mine those precious memories, and then bring into our consciousness and into the future that which we will into creation. Because that's what we've always done. We've always done it longer and better than anybody else on the planet. And the historical record is there, the document is there. That's what they want to break. That's what they want to ban. That's what they want to make illegal. Anything that will empower us frightens them. So all I say is let's fight the hell out of them. So I have the honor of working with my sister Free, one of the baddest artists and designers out there. And we created some images that are designed to unlock ancestral memories. And the cornerstone of the Clark exhibit is the 25-foot-long mural that documents 8,000 years of African success and excellence. It takes us through the Ma'afa, and it ends at the National Museum of African American History and Culture. And what you see in that mural are ancestors rising up out of that building, right? And to the extreme right, we see Brother Ah, playing the trumpet like Gabriel, calling the ancestors up, telling them we got work for you to do, and these are the bodies that you're going to work through. So, like, it's a nice image, it's a nice concept, but it's rooted in something real. It's rooted in something that's architecturally and spiritually grounded. Think about that building. That building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, and I can give you none of my notes. That building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, was designed by an African architect. And he says in the literature that the inspiration for the design of the exterior of the building, that bronze-colored lattice work, which is referred to as the corona, that image was inspired by a Yoruba shrine post, in which there's a carving, brother, you know what I'm talking about, right? There's a carving of a priest riding on a horse, and atop the priest are three inverted triangles. And the top triangle has a hole cut in the center, which I know from my time in the Nile Valley, that is a spirit door. That is a portal to the ancestor realm. And an inverted triangle is a symbol that represents the descent of spirit into matter. Right? And so you see three of these triangles representing the descent of spiritual energy, mental energy, physical energy into the consciousness of this priest. And it's his job now to use this information and then to share it among the population in the various villages where he will come and deliver his message. So that was an inspiration for the exterior of this building, which means then, if the inspiration was a carriage from a Yoruba shrine house, a place where ancestors dwell, it means that this building, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, is not just a museum, it is a shrine house. And inside of this building are objects that were possessed, that were owned, that were used by various people of African ancestry through their struggle here in this country. So you have the shawl of Harriet Tubman. You have the Bible in that term. You have a slave auction block. You have a slave house. You have manacles that enslaved African men, women, and children wore at one time. You have pieces of slave ships in that space. So everything that anyone owned, anyone touched, anyone used, has their spirit in it. So you have thousands of objects inside of this shrine house. And all that is required of those who come inside of this museum is to come in with the right consciousness. Come in with the right consciousness. Know that you're in the shrine house. Know that you're in the presence of ancestors. And then open your arms and have them come down and hold you, possess you, use you, so that when you leave that space, you can leave with your mind transformed and clarity about how you should be spending the rest of your life. That's the concept. That's why that building is there. So there are some devils, call them what they are, call them what they are, who want to take out, remove some of the artifacts in that shrine house. And if they had their way, they would tear it down. If they had their way. But whatever they do, it's too late. This thing has already been set in motion. These connections with ancestors have already been established. And nothing that they do can break these connections. So it's important that we understand what time it is. It's important that we understand who we are. It's important that we minimize and reject fear. Because these are times of fearlessness. Right? These are times when we should stand in the full glory and power of who we are. And the ancestors should not be resting. They should be working through us. And we should be calling them 24/7. They should be openly involved. That's why they exist. So the beauty of adoption, the beauty of telling our story, documenting our journey. The beauty of understanding and cherishing ancestral memories and knowing that remembering is a healing process is essential for us to do the work that we are all supposed to be doing at this particular point in time in history. It's no accident, it's no coincidence that we are all here living at this particular point in time in history. What happens over the course of the next 4 or 5 years will determine the course of the next 4 or 500 years. It's not a time to go to sleep, not a time to be afraid. This is the time that we chose to be born in because we are a continuation of all of those ancestors whose names we invoke every time we do libation. We ain't just calling the name just to call the name. We're calling the name because we are making a commitment to them that we're ready for them to use us to transform the world. That's what that relationship is all about. So God, for 32 years, has shown us who we are. Has helped to make us proud of our connection to ancestors. So that we can grow out of the limitations that have been imposed upon us by those agents of those who enslaved us, miseducated us, and made us worship gods who are not our own. It's important to ground ourselves in our own reality. Because we need to move, make the announcement, and then I'm almost done.